Hi, Paul Donovan here, avtechnician.ca, your tips and tricks for AV technicians. One of my viewers asked me a question. Can I thrive as an AV technician? Or better still, they actually asked me, can I thrive as an AV technician if I don't have the IT skills? And in question mark, how can I get those IT skills? This is what this video is going to be about today. Are you ready? Here we go. I hope you'll like this channel and will subscribe to it. If you like this video, feel free to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave comments. That's how this video started, because somebody asked me a question. So a question from a viewer. Can one thrive in this industry with no formal training of IT? Okay, well, let's split this thing into two parts. First off, can one thrive in this industry? And secondly, formal training. There's two parts that join together to make this question a very valuable question. I went to the dictionary to find out what thrive means. And of course it says to grow vigorously, as in flourish. To gain wealth or possessions, as in prosper. To progress toward or realize a goal despite or because of the circumstances. And I'm sure you've often heard someone thrives on conflict, or thrives on pressure, or thrives on. We hear that word a lot. I'm going to take the word thrive as to prosper. But I'm not going to lean just on the fact that you thrive as in getting money, but you also thrive in getting good work, positive feedback from the customers, and your own personal satisfaction. So let's look at the first part of this question. Can you thrive? I actually answered most of these questions in my first video on this channel. Feel free to go back and look at my first video on this channel and see if I haven't answered the questions, but I'll just mention them right here. The hours of work, the lack of schedule, lots of time off. It's impossible to plan a vacation. There's no benefits plan, and there is no way to budget. Now, have I scared you yet? Well, this is what I was trying to outline in my first video on this channel. What is an AV technician? You're a freelancer. At least a lot of people who do this are freelancers. This means you're in some control of your schedule, but you are dependent upon events happening and you getting called into them. So, schedule and working hours are probably the hardest part of getting ahead in this game. You can basically forget about scheduling for personal time, because if you're smart, every time an AV company calls you to book you, you say yes, even if it's just a 4-hour call. You can forget about starting a relationship or even keeping a relationship going. You've got to have a very, very, very good significant other to keep these relationships going. But there's a bonus. You have a lot of time off during the off season, which in my case is the summer, July, August, and Christmas. It's a big time off in my industry, in my area, in my part of the planet. Now, that's great when you think about it. It means you have a schedule, but unless you are the one who says no, you need to be saying yes, because there is a lot of time off. Budgeting. Well, many of us would love to have enough money, but yet a lot of times most of us have no idea how much money we're going to have in that paycheck next week or 2 weeks from now or a month from now. You know, a lot of people work, they know they got their 40 hours a week, they've got a standard paycheck coming in, all that stuff. We don't know that. One time I might get a paycheck for 2 weeks with $4,000, and the next week I have $100. That's because the work is so up and down. Because you're a freelance contractor or even a freelance employee, you are not really sure. Yes, you may know what payday is, especially if you're an employee of the company. You may know when payday is. If you're a contractor, you may not know when you're going to get paid, because sometimes you're treated like any other supplier and the company will pay you whenever they feel like it. You may not ever know how much money you'll get coming in until you see your pay stub or you see the money is deposited into your account. So The next part of this video is the part that talks about training. One of the most frequent questions I get from people both on this channel and off the channel is, how can I get training? Right? Generally speaking, an AV technician learns on the job. It depends on the type of work you're going to do, but generally speaking, you learn on the job. So where can you get training? Well, there are very, 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 very few places. So here's a couple of things. Mostly the setup and strike crew are the ones that are primarily hired because they're happy to do the heavy lifting. But this is also where you get your start. When I started in this industry over 22 years ago, wow, I was lifting heavy stuff, lifting screens, projectors. I even lifted humongous 29-inch CRT TVs. That's how I got it. I enjoyed the muscles I was building up. I enjoyed the fact that my belly went a little bit smaller. But that was the hardest 6 months of this job. And I'm not sure I really liked it. At minimum, most companies will hope you have a high school diploma. But there are no rules on this, because if you don't have a high school diploma, hopefully you read and write. That's the big stuff. A smart, hard-working person should be able to learn the tasks of a setup and strike crew in as little as a month. Assuming you're actually doing work, in as little as a month, you'll probably learn most of what you're going to need to do every day on the set and strike crew. And you're learning on the job. Yes, on the job. So, the big thing that you do when you're working as a setup and strike crew, key thing to remember is repeat, repeat, and repeat. And also, stay organized. We have a thing called a fast fold screen, and many's the time our crew don't put it all back together into the boxes the same way. And the next person who opens up those boxes finds things all messed up or missing. That's why you got to stay organized. But when you learn to set up a fast fold screen, remember, because you could do it 4, 5, 6 times that week or month, and you need to remember. And not all fast fold screens are the same. They may have the same basic principle, but they're not all the same. And that's just fast folds. You're setting up a mixer, you're setting up a speaker, you're setting up a projector, you're setting up a laptop. You'll have to learn how to do these on the job and repeat it over and over and over again. That's the way you get your training. Now, if you're going to be a show tech, such as what I do, you need a little more IT and or tech knowledge, but it don't need much. A little can go a long way. You often start out on the strike crew, set up strike crew, and you learn how the equipment goes together. It's amazing how much you learn when you're putting a speaker up and you plug it in and you see what the lights come on and you say, hey, yay! Now, a couple of the minimum things I think you need to know. Number one is you should learn the basics of PowerPoint. You should learn the basics of how to set up an audio mixer. To do an audio mixer requires you to be able to hear sound. And now that's a tough one for me to explain. But you don't just hear sound. You don't just go test, test, and you hear the speaker test, test. What you also have to hear is the echo, the reverb, the feedback, and know how to correct for those things. Those are some of the basic things associated with the audio mixer board. And don't forget the basics. Okay? Now, sometimes people say, should I go and take a sound or an audio engineering course? No. But also yes. An engineering course will teach you how to hear sound. But it doesn't actually, very seldom anyway, teaches you how to do live sound. There is a big difference between studio sound and live sound. And there's a huge difference between a small meeting room sound and a humongous, I don't know what you call those things, performance stage. There's a huge difference in live sound. So the schools, they may teach you how to dial in the sound, but they really don't teach you how to set up the equipment, how to put together a microphone and its cable, how to put together a mixer, how to hang up speakers. They're not teaching you how to put up screens and projectors. They're not teaching you how to wire all these things together. They're not going to be teaching you how to do PowerPoint, how to make PowerPoint show up on the computers, on the big screen. So again, most show techs learn on the job. Isn't that amazing? Hey. So, is there an AV Tech school or an AV Tech course? Now, I won't say I'm the expert on this, but I have never heard of an AV school or an AV course that teaches the kind of stuff that I do every day. Very little. Now, I did hear from somebody, a school in Singapore, who was looking for information about how to do an AV course. So they sent me their planned outline of how they planned on doing it. I took one look at it and said, and who's going to teach it? When they told me who was going to teach it, I said, really? Does this person even know how an audio mixer works? Because I looked at the outline, and the outline didn't make any sense in the real world. So, is there an AV school? No, not that I know of. People have asked me, why don't you teach a course on being an AV technician? A great question. I'm sort of doing that now, but I'm doing it through the format of a YouTube channel. I've thought about setting up an actual course which actually has curriculum, actually has tuition fees, and so on. But the thing is, it would be a virtual course, done just like I'm doing with YouTube videos. It may not be what you're actually looking for. So keep following my channel. You never know. One of these days I might branch out and call myself the AV Technician School Online or something like that. In case you hadn't really been paying attention, you may have noticed that the common theme in my talk today is we usually learn to be an AV technician on the job. You need to learn, especially if you're going to be a show tech, you need to learn the basics of PowerPoint. Well, maybe a little more than basics, maybe a level 2 set of skills. When somebody is learning how to do PowerPoint, the basics are how to design, but level 2 takes you a little bit further. It takes you how to connect a projector, how to do this, how to do animations, etc. Now, one of the best ways, almost everybody I've ever met who does AV, especially during show tech, they often have worked at churches or nonprofit groups or events as a volunteer. Sometimes they get paid, but usually you don't get paid if you're not good at it. Yes, I know some of my co-workers who work at churches on Sunday have nothing to do with the church, and they're certainly not volunteering. But that's what they do. That's because the church is unable to find volunteers to do the job who know what they're doing. But yet, it is probably the most wonderful way to gain that experience and that knowledge is to volunteer at a religious group or nonprofit event. Volunteer your services. You may learn what the business end of a microphone actually does. You may learn that. You may learn how to put up a speaker or how to connect PowerPoint. This is what you can do. So, can I thrive with no training? Be humble. Watch, learn, and try. That's what I said. Volunteer if you can. And be humble. Don't tell somebody, hey, I'm an expert at doing this, unless you actually are. So be humble. And learn on the job. There. I've used up enough of our time today. So if you like my channel, well, feel free to subscribe. That's the subscribe button. If you like this video, give me some thumbs up. I love thumbs up. And don't forget to leave me comments. That's how this whole video came about, is because somebody left me a question and I tried to answer it in this video. So I'm Paul Donovan. I'm the avtechnician.ca, tips and tricks for AV technicians. I hope you'll come and listen to another video soon. Have a great day and thanks for watching.